Thursday, April 30th, 9:09 a.m. What's up, everybody? We are about 20 minutes to the market open. Got a couple talking points for you, a little portfolio construction considerations, and then typical kind of stuff here. And so we have the first thing I wanted to talk about is what is real money. And so kind of just we were watching on our screen right now is Meta, where kind of the overall market's digesting big tech earnings, which is really also the consideration for when people say the market. As we've pointed out explicitly, when I say the market, I'm explicitly saying the S&P 500. When most people say the market, they don't really specify. And I'm talking again specifically responding to the presentation and overall conversations presented on CNBC. And so it's kind of just you have this positive sentiment. American dream, baby. Stocks to the moon. Straight up. Bald eagles are ripping. And so you kind of just get this overall, hey, you just say this statement, stock's going up, and then everyone's kind of in this jovial mood. And so, but they don't really class or specify what they're talking about. The S&P 500, the Dow Jones, some other sector over here, some of the Russell 2000, whatever. And so just kind of positive-ish sentiment, markets at highs. Again, overall, nothing new there. But we had kind of the focus of, again, when you say the market, because of the composition of the S&P 500 and these other indices, certainly the NASDAQ as well, you're having super tech heavy. And so just something to point out that the overall conversation and sentiment around these tech earnings that's currently going on right now is kind of like the driver of the major indices for the most part. And as you can see, if you're following this log or just the markets in general, this herd mentality, the market all goes down on one day, everything kind of goes down. I think that will separate at some point, but certainly a big herd mentality, and I think that's self-evident throughout the market dynamics. But in addition to the big tech earnings, we had Caterpillar, which I'm not sure, this is probably in the Dow Jones Industrial Average, but just something that brings to mind psychologically the thought blue collar versus white collar. And so a real job is anyone that makes money, but what is real money? Specifically, what are people appealing to when they say, hey, I got my first real job? You're living at your parents' house like I am. I don't have constitutional rights. So assuming that you, again, are allowed to participate in society, which actually my specific situation does provide some more sentiment considerations we'll get to. But just overall, what is real money? What is a real job? And psychologically, it's this ability that it's enough income to have a quality of life. Your quality of life, is sort of dependent, but really it's just a comfortable income past necessity, is what people really psychologically attenuate or define as real money. Hey, can I leave my parents' house? Hey, can I go out into the world, have rent covered, have water, food, all of my necessities, transportation, insurance, blah, 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 and have either savings or at least raise a family? I'd say at the bare minimum, the psychological prospect of having a family is like progress, moving forward. And so to me, a job on a psychological level, what people are appealing to when they say a real job or real money is this quality of life progression in society where, hey, you're born as a kid, you're dependent on your parents or on guardians to some extent, and then you say, hey, I'm going to go to school and I'm going to get introduced into the labor force. I need to have my skills differentiated enough or have an opportunity or some combination of both to sustain a lifestyle. And so to me, that's what I really think is real money, and it's not a dollar figure. That's what a real job is. And now you get a lot of this competition. Now you put that in the context of, I'm a competitive person, and then everybody's competitive people, but they actually are incompetent idiots and competing over nothing. Then you kind of get what LinkedIn is. And so, but a real job meaning it's like, okay, everyone kind of wants to have this like substantially above middle class income or like lifestyle, above middle class lifestyle. Hey, we can afford 2 vacations a year. We maybe even have a vacation house. And it's just like, oh, but I still couldn't be a billionaire or even like 100 millionaire, but can I make $5 million? Probably. Again, $5 million to $10 million to me is really like, if you manage money correctly, and again, I'm not talking even financial management, but just like on your personal finance level, and then you're diligent, just the overall progression of a career, $3 to $10 million is like kind of where you can get pretty comfortably. But point being is the concept of a real job is just a lifestyle. What really you need in a lifestyle, necessity versus want, once you get into discretionary spending or discretionary, I want a bigger boat or even a vacation house to begin with, you're way more into like the discretionary psychology of, hey, I want something if I can provide that value, but I'm not over there breaking my back. I'm not moving states, or maybe you are, to get a new job to go from, 300K of income to 400K. Again, I'm sure a lot of people would change for that. But again, there's just like a lifestyle trade-off where it's, hey, 300K is a good salary, how about 350 is 400. It's like this trade-off with if you value time with your family, if you value hobbies or whatever. Again, that's more of discretionary, where necessity is I need somewhere to live. I would even say like basic cable, people like expect that. Or it's like certainly something you would buy on a level where I'm certainly not high income. Again, as a personal, somebody that's managed money like on a poverty level income, which I still am. I can't emphasize enough. None of this money is real to me because I cannot access society. Right? The average person that we're talking about, they want real money. They can go to school. I can't go to school. I can put all of analysis on the internet and say, here's Article 1, Section 8, Clause 8 of the United States Constitution, and no one gives a shit. And then I live in an environment where it's still like, hey, man, you working on your resume? It's like, no, dude. Like, half the CIA moved in next door when I was at apartments, and they watched everything I did, and they said I passed these tests, and I negotiated some truce. And I'm like, fucking cool beans. Can I have my money yet? And the answer is still, well, and to genuinely, on a personal level, I just have no expectation. The IRS is going to try to extort me. I have no tax obligation without constitutional rights, and I'm surrounded by people so pathetic that would never equate to anything, and on a practical level, you just get a letter in the mail, your mom freaks out, and then you're fucked again. And that's what I sit in. That is what I sit in every day. I do not have constitutional rights. I do not have meaningful income. I cannot function in society at a criminal, like I am the victim of crime. And so your average person is not in the psychology of the victim of crime, and on a personal level, I've never been outside of that. I have never had constitutional rights. I've never felt safe. I've never had the ability to eat properly, sleep properly, and work. And at this point, to the people doing this to me, that's all I'm asking for. That's all I've been asking for years. Because to continue to waste my life is such a profound disgrace and shame. And I'm still over here effectively doing nothing. And I don't get to live my life. I'm not asking for publication or a lavish lifestyle, just a little bit of money to eat properly, to sleep properly, and to work. And so the psychology of living in true poverty is a thing, and then psychology of living in poverty without constitutional rights is a whole nother level of like, you're just fucked. And there's objectively nothing to do. And so that's where I'm just over here. It's like, okay, I don't even care that I live at my parents' house, truly. I don't have constitutional rights. I cannot make income, pay taxes, and function in society. And that's the base level of what real money is. So I was like, what? I can't even try to do shit. Again, emphasizing my life's quality is 0. But for our overall general talking point is the average person in the labor market has never managed money from a true poverty level. Poverty level money management is you can't. Not you don't want to, not let's take another dollar over here to put it over here. It's you fucking can't. And I've lived in the world of you can't for as long as I've ever been alive. And at this point, it's directly and immediately because Michael DeWine will not allow me to, again, pay fucking taxes on, again, income that I should be given. Public contracts, terms satisfied for years. Years. Tens of millions of dollars is mine right now. And I can't go into the grocery store and buy food. And so, but even getting back to, again, just our general talking point is when people think real money or, hey, am I going to take this promotion or am I going to look for a new job, it's for quality of life jumps, not a given amount of money. And so wanting to emphasize, because, again, watching Caterpillar, just what popped into my head is, again, blue collar versus white collar, which I think is a truly just like a low level, again, all of the mediocrity of the world trying to be slightly better than the next guy. It's not a meaningful thing. Again, the sentiment of white collars, again, a more real of a job, and blue collars, harder worker, again, with this appeal to college, which, again, every academic institution is demonstrably fraudulent right now. To such a profound level. Again, you see the steps of this derivation of analysis of proofing, right? The basis of mathematics being thematics is like a step from it's just like It's not even like a big result. None of these results are big to me. It's all just one progression, and just there's different steps, and you guys have never seen any of it. And I've ran this shit back multiple times. But regardless, to the blue collar, white collar, right? Caterpillar is a company that we've referenced throughout this series. I've never owned it, but something I think is just like good business. You get a good quality product, a big industrial tractor, mower, whatever. You go farm your land. You get a bunch of use out of it. I like these companies. That lot of words to say I like these companies. This got me thinking of blue collar versus white collar, and just the overall question is what is real money? And it's just a quality of life progression or expectation or goal. And so that was my thoughts for Caterpillar. Just kind of, we're making a trading log, talking finance. That's what came to mind there. And so in the same type of tone or topic, there was a chick on yesterday, not a regular guest, one of these just people I've never seen before, middle-aged white chick, and she said something to the effect of, if you don't beat inflation past, or if your return doesn't beat inflation after earnings, you lose purchasing power. So again, I'm just over here like mind-boggled at this privilege. It's like there's people genuinely out there again, who again, I don't have that many thoughts here, but it's like if you can accumulate a couple $1 million, why can't you accumulate tens of millions of dollars? Like genuinely, but then that's the thing is people can make money, even have careers, or even start businesses and know absolutely zero about market dynamics. Nothing. And that disparity to me is just tremendously, hilariously stupid. Because again, these are all the people that say, look at my money. Again, maybe not that big of people. I don't know what like price range this is. I don't know if I'm thinking about people with like $5 million to $25 million, or people with $125 million that still don't know how to manage money. But I just don't get how you have any exposure to money management and you can't accumulate wealth if you have access to having a career, if you have access to the law, genuinely. Again, I would not be making these videos if I could just throw this shit with this war when the index funds were down. Again, I'm still not that bullish on the overall market, but point being is I would have put a good amount of money in there and just gone fucking hiking. I mean, I'm asking for like literally what people would never accept as a quality of life. I have never had any quality of life, and I'm coming from the level of below poverty. Poverty without constitutional rights. I cannot access private property. I cannot enter the workforce. My rights are directly violated. That is literal slavery. That is the definition. You do not have rights, and they take away any attempt to have private property. It's what it is. But anyway, back to not understanding people again who are in business, who are even on this show. Again, there was somebody that was on a baseball Scott Wapner, but it was like a money dude and then like a baseball guy, and the baseball guy was like, I was looking for that like Chipotle like one time. And it's like, I don't know how you have like in this whole concept of I'm going to make money and go give it to Johnny, and then Johnny went to Harvard, and now I'm going to say, we're going to beat the S&P, we're going to get you 8%, and there's absolutely no secrets to any part of the market. It's just people are so privileged and lazy. I just don't understand where this world is. I live in the real world. The real world is where you can say, I can turn on the TV, watch Governor Michael DeWine say, I stand up for all Ohioans, and I am a fucking Ohioan, and say, here's the law, what about that one? And then everybody's like, oh yeah, that's Brad, fuck him. It's like, oh, yeah, sweet. And now I'm going to be 33 this year. I've never had a career, and I'm not going to be able to have a family. The most basic foundational things you need to live a life. And I just sit there and rot in that anxiety all day with this expectation. The next thing that's in my life is I'm going to get a letter in the mail, fraudulently, illegally, a direct result of a racket, and then my life is just refucked. And I just sit here and rot in that anxiety every minute of every day. So if you have constitutional rights, if you have the ability to have a career and a family, just be thankful. Because, again, when I see people bitch about what job they have or what hours they work, and they signed up for this shit, it's just like, I just don't even understand what level of privilege and entitlement this is. And so to the inflation, if you don't beat inflation past taxes and earnings, or all of your fees and expenses, you lose purchasing power. And those levels of people still have money managers. I mean, for crying out loud, the 60-40 split is plenty fine, right? Just solidify your income, and then take whatever risk you're willing to. It's such a simple, and it's the correct way to manage money based on market dynamics. It's always just, again, this, you get $5+ million and then it's just like, and you still have no understanding of market dynamics. It's just the gooberest like interactions that have ever existed. Seeing people that have had successful careers, have had product sales, business sales, whatever. They have a little bit of wealth to a good amount of wealth. Having no money management skills is beyond me, just categorically beyond me, because it's very literally your job at that point. Like it's always, kind of always is your job, being exposed to having a bank account, being in a liquid environment. But if you pride yourself on saying, hey, I'm a career person, and it's just like you don't like understand market dynamics at all, to me, that's not doing your job. Those were thoughts that came up for Caterpillar's earnings. The overall tech earnings in general, again, we covered that a little bit last night, not companies I really follow, because everything is like the real businesses, they have huge infrastructure. Should the PE be at 25 or 35, 45 or 29? I have no idea. And I have no conviction at ever. And like I said, overall in the market, it's like, again, we're still at 4 years or 3.5 years of gains. That doesn't have to be a limit, but 3 years is kind of like a psychological something. Enough for me to think about it. There's plenty of examples throughout history where it's like, that doesn't hold. How does that relate to just overall psychological development, to the actual technology environment? 1929 with Andrew Ross Sorkin's book to now is hugely different in terms of just technological things. But the overall sentiment's not that different. Tons of considerations. I have no real prospectus on the market. Very slightly bearish for the next 9 months. Some sort of bigger retracement. I don't know. But I still tend to take short positions. I'm not really trading. Again, I'm sitting on treasury bonds trying to hope that I don't go fucking homeless. Like, that's actually legitimate. And so, again, this is all documentation of, egregious damages, profound duress. But regardless, the overall tech earnings, we're just going to see how they play out. We'll check back in around lunchtime. We have about 3 minutes until the market opens. And so I did close CF pre-market. The overall tensions on the war front seem pretty up in the air. Trump just said something about the blockade could last for, several months, at least 3 months. And so we're going to try to trade SanDisk. We can see that's currently at 1,115. Try to use numbers, Brad. Exacerbated stimulus over here, meaning I think this could flare up certainly once the market opens. So we had a pre-market. I was able to exit. This is plus 50 for the day, but effectively flat, like maybe like $5. I think it was $10. But profit. And so overall up about 600 here, sitting up overall of all things we've done about $1,000. Seeing this as having the potential to flare back up, like literally when the market opens. Doesn't have to, but that's enough for me to close it. If it gets up to the 127 or above, maybe re-entering short. But we do have an earnings coming up. We do have a dividend coming up. And so this is not a company or sector that I'm familiar enough or comfortable with around earnings time. So still a super small position, but again, you don't want to randomly lose $200 ever. So it's just like, hey, we're profit. We have a good profit on this stock. We'll see how it goes, but heavy consideration of wanting to be out of all positions here, coming around this May 5th time, it's May 6th is earnings. And so that is where our thought is here. We don't really want a position, but we will be more like American Eagle. We know exactly when the earnings are, but we're more confident. Here we're less confident. We still know exactly when the earnings are. Might take a position, might not. We'll just play it by ear. Currently nothing. Close this pre-market. And then, again, just overall short exposure is another like accounting thing that I always have in my head, because those are the positions that can go up, right? You have two small short positions and they both blow up for whatever reason. Now you have a problem. And so closing CF gives me a little more. I have higher conviction for the next, again, specific. After market today, SanDisk is going to report. They're going to be strong numbers. Appreciation into the pre-market about 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. I'm looking to short 1 to 2 shares. And so that's the direct prospectus. Nothing has changed since yesterday. We will comment if anything changes before then. But this is kind of like our focus. Hey, when does this momentum break overall? because these are, again, where you can make life-changing money. But frankly, you can make life-changing money just based on position sizing for anything that you have conviction of movement. And so this one, but again, we will take a position, expected to sell off intraday, and then looking to cover, just as we said yesterday. Again, the overall trading of this has been very, very strong. So not expecting a huge sell-off or anything, but just the normal reaction to an earnings beat, pre-market appreciation is our prospectus. So that is our focus, wanting to take down additional short exposure by closing CF. And so we've done that. Same prospectus there. If it pops back up again, it could. We'll just see. This has gone on long enough. And so the only other thing I wanted to say is, if SanDisk's earnings, if the overall dynamics of a stock split don't really scare me or bother me at all, and nothing scares me in that sense, but you get what I'm saying, adds new uncertainty where it's hey, I don't really know how to manage this or what to do. If they announce a stock split, I'm still the same kind of overall prospectus. If they don't announce a stock split, because of the rumors, to me it adds another little, hey, the management certainly heard this rumor, and to not have a stock split's to me indicative of, we, the management, think this is not going to last, meaning the price appreciation for X amount of time. The overall news cycle seems strong enough where an earnings beat today, we could still have, again, very strong appreciation or trading throughout the rest of the year from my perspective. And so that's our overall dynamic thoughts of what's going on in the market this morning. The market has now just opened up. We are looking at the S&P at 713, up about $2. And so that's why they say basis points. Don't even say basis. You can say points, I guess. But I would never say this is not a basis points, right? Your basis is set. Basis is as is, literally. It does not change. You change a percentage of the basis. And so the S&P is up 1.85 points, not basis points. I don't even like points, though. I don't know. I like percentage change is the only thing that makes sense to me, because it's a unitless number, right? This is not joules. This is not ohms. This is just a fraction or a weighted average with no unit. And so there's no points. I don't know. Anyway, that is what I have for this morning. We will check in later. Thursday, April 30th, 3:33 p.m. A nice lot of threes. So we're back on the market about just under 30 minutes until we close. We have SanDisk pulled up. We are long one share. Talking you through, again, earnings report after the hours or after the market closes. Playing both the long and short on this one because of conviction, right? Expecting a blowout earnings report. I only see buying into the close of the market on the earnings report day. So we went ahead and took one share, small position, but as we said a lot, $20 is $20. And so we will look to close this before the market closes, but just kind of your thought process, if you wanted to play earnings to the long side, I do expect this to appreciate immediately after the bell, but then you just get a lot of volatility and a lot less volume. And so looking to close this almost 99% for sure before the bell closes, even though we do expect an appreciation to the upside. The risk reward, should the immediate reaction be to the downside, we won't be that excited. And so high conviction of continued appreciation up until the close. We will probably close out this position right around 4 o'clock. If you have think or swim, your actual timer, it's 15, 35, 20. It turns red in the last 5 minutes, but it'll probably be within the last 30 seconds of the bell closing. Should we keep appreciating into the close? The last a couple minutes, it gets a lot more janky, but trying to make a little bit on this appreciation. Again, a position size proportional to our conviction and our overall prospectus. And so should this go the way we expect it, blowout earnings with concurrent price appreciation post-market, and then kind of drift upwards into the early morning, and then we kind of sell or drift back down before the market opens, and then some sort of sell-off is the move we are expecting with a decent amount of conviction. And then as we've been covering SanDisk for the better part of 6 months now, definitely looking any short position should it go into our favor tomorrow, looking to close that intraday as well. Less bearish now than we were several months ago for the overall news cycle, demand story, supply constriction going into the future. So I will short this, medium conviction, have no conviction elsewhere, wanting to trade something, probably just be at one share, but again, hard stop right at the entry price here. We'll close this out before the before the closing bell. And so we're looking at market highs everywhere. Pop on over to the S&P 500. We are, all-time high. So we're feeling, again, talking about the management of these income funds. Again, we closed out just in this random volume blip down here, which was super fun. But again, I was looking to close this, not for any long-term thing. It just, we've been managing this for 6 months. It seems like it's a tradable thing. The overall monthly income is, we've had, our position has gotten us between, $190, about $200 to $300. And so I'm just thinking, hey, if I can trade this even just on the capital appreciation once a month, then I'm going to have either equivalent return or better, meaning I get some sort of capital appreciation in addition to the actual dividend. And then if we're wrong, comfortable holding the position for a while, just has an income fund, seems to track the underlying pretty solid. We have not seen a sustained downturn, but looking like we're going to track the indice pretty consistently. Looked into doing some covered calls myself. Again, I'm just not in a mode where I'm like trying to trade for any reason. Like, I like making content, focusing on the educational aspects. We are deriving all of science over and from rhythm to algorithm. Be sure to check that out. Almost done. Again, holy shit. But happily trying to trade these income funds, to a level of about whatever the dividend would be. And then hopefully we get the capital appreciation on a given month or given 2 months or whatever, and the dividend. And so that's kind of the thought there. We had one quote I had from this morning that was funny that I didn't, it pretty much came up right when I turned off my camera. But we were talking about Intel. So Donald Trump felt the great need to pump a stock yesterday. Another great use of the presidency, commenting on individual stocks. And so we had a good appreciation off of Trump's tweet for Intel, something we have been following. Again, this company, I think it's Intel, or it might have been Seagate. No, but Intel, okay, so Intel, you can see these green money signs down here. They actually cut the dividend. And so for overall, again, SanDisk, I've become less bearish. I still don't see how long and for high we go up on these things. It could break tomorrow, but I'm less convinced. And so on SanDisk, if they don't, like we said, if they don't announce a split, then we're a little more, But if they do announce a split, not a super big thing, but just we will see a split not announced as kind of like a management seeing this as abnormally substantial appreciation. Minor consideration, nothing major. But on the Intel, Jim Cramer was talking about it in David Favor. I kind of like Carl Cantanilla, Jim Cramer, and David Favor's dynamic. I kind of like out of all of the people I see on CNBC. Because Cramer's just, again, money, which is fine, but scumbag screams a lot. But he's overall playful. I think he's overall playful. And then David Favor is like, what do you think, Jim? Should Intel sell their position? The government, should they sell their position after the great appreciation? And just the way he said it was funny. I genuinely laughed. But I just have, when should the government sell out? Specifically in relation to the Intel stock, which was kind of funny. But just a couple other points. We had Saudi Arabia pulls the Live Gulf funding, which, I don't know, talking point. What provides, again, staying power? We kind of talked about branding in a way of like, stuff that's super locally branded. Columbus, Ohio, go Buckeyes, Triple America, like something that strikes you as like a souvenir shop. Seems very like transient. Again, not transitory, transient, very fleeting and brief. But then like Charles Schwab is just somebody else's name. So it's like, how do you get a classy, respectable, prestigious kind of branding from just a name as opposed to, locally sourced souvenir looking shop type of organization. I'm not sure. But that kind of consideration for this Live Golf Tour, right? The PGA is established. Why? Well, a bunch of people watch it and play it, and Professional Golf Association. Why not the Live Golf Association? So they canceled some tournaments. The actual payouts, I Googled it, and like the big payouts you see, DeChambeau, John Rahm, Phil Mickelson, I don't know if he's still there, but like they were signing bonuses. So they just got a big old paycheck, played some tour events, and it's like, hey, head back on over to the PGA. I guess we'll see. But a world of privilege where you get paid, money for what you do is just not, I have no understanding and concept of that. And then it's just, again, playing games on top of that. It's just like a world of privilege I have no access to. But it was a talking point. Haven't really been doing any sort of political stuff. So I'll just throw a talking point in here. The James Comey tweet. This was just strange to me. So when I see 86, I Googled it to make sure I wasn't mixing up the etymology or something, but the verbiage that is presented by the number 86 is out of. Right? If you're in the restaurant industry, that's where I was introduced to it, but I Googled it to make sure there wasn't some other, like the restaurant industry didn't take it from somewhere else. But if you're 86 something, you're out of something. So if I have my Attorney General hat on and I see this tweet, I scratch my head and say, why would a former director of the FBI be tweeting anything edgy, weird, or whatever? If you have charges or an affidavit or whatever the legal proceedings are required, you just file the charges. And so once again, we have a person in a position with no maturity. Age is just a number. I am the only adult in this world, clearly, demonstrably. And we have a former director of the FBI tweeting like an edgelord. And so I would dismiss the charges. I see the Trump response as political. This does not strike me in any way even convoluted a threat. It is a weird edgelord tweet for sure, right? This looks like an interesting shell formation. And then clearly you're trying to transmit meaning. That's clear. The verbiage that is presented by 8647 is out of 47. And so that's not a direct threat or a convoluted threat in any way. If you're the former director of the FBI, why wouldn't you just file charges? Where does this edgelord desire come from? Absolutely abomination. But again, like I said, you guys aren't men. You guys aren't women. You guys are not adults. And so Bizarre Place would dismiss the charges. I see the response from the Trump administration as purely political. And it's just this overall, right? You can, again, look at January 6th. Trump pardoned a bunch of people that actually committed sedition. Like violent, substantial, meaningful crimes. And so if it's about our actions, oh no, we were just defending the Constitution by not respecting the Constitution and destroying government property and not respecting election proceedings. But it's our group. And now we can perceive this. It's just this hypocrisy at face value, right? Oh, well now, look at this tweet. This can kind of be interpreted as a threat. It's not. The verbiage is out of. So it doesn't even really make sense, but it is not like we're going to take this out. Certainly not to the level of saying like immediate bodily harm, but it does, as a director of the FBI. Again, this is where my life situation is relevant. Genuinely, like we talked about again in terms of, I don't even know people's like where they live, but like to go find where somebody's lived to like say, hey, this person's committing crime, it's just out there to me. And I am sitting over here with grave bodily harm, with extreme property destruction. I mean, true substantial crimes, and it's just like the application of law is not vigilantism, regardless of how severe the crime is. And frankly, like to people that I have as much respect for the people's lives that have treated me like shit as they've had for my life. But it's not like, let's go do something. It's just like, this is like the weird edgelord mentality is just not the application of law. People commit crimes. The law enforcement and the legal proceedings should make sense. At current times, they don't. But even under those conditions of this vigilantism, bang our chest, let's do this. I'm offended or something's wrong, and I'm going to like tease violence or tease, hey, you're going to not be, I'm going to say some verbiage that's going to be convoluted and you're not going to, and you can interpret every way you want, but I'm trying to put out like I'm a tough guy. 8647. What are we doing here? And again, as somebody who has access to law, and everybody else out there, again, the most people have access to law. I do not have access to law, and I'm still like, what the fuck is going on with this shit? Not a threat. Demonstrably not mature behavior that you're seeing from. But again, the FBI is a joke. The Trump administration is a joke. There was no respect for the United States Constitution from any aspect of law enforcement or from the professional world at all. Period. None. Zero. And so that's what's going on there. I don't really have any other talking points. But just there's this value, right? Like you're in a gang. I didn't say a politician. I didn't see a gangbanger on the side of the street. Just you're in a gang. You're in a group that doesn't respect the law. And so it's like there's this value to be like, I'm going to be the enforcer, right? You're sitting around talking. It's like, oh, this guy stole from me. This guy's doing this. What do we think about him? And someone's like, oh, I'll be better without him. And then somebody else says, oh, yeah, well, maybe we should do something about it. So you kind of have this collective escalation of sentiment. And so seeing that again from a formal FBI director where, again, you can just file charges, just file charges if something's going on, but we don't see mature behavior from anybody in our administration. Again, as I sit here without constitutional rights, with extreme destruction of property, with substantial grave bodily harm, no one gives a flying fuck about anything. And so that was our talking points. And like I said, I haven't been doing much of the news cycle, so I wanted to put that in there. Nothing else really on economics. We were talking about, again, just Google, the big tech earnings reporting, what's come of that. Google up and up again. Meta, I think this was down and down again. Yep, down and flat after down. Microsoft, pretty much flat, then down, and kind of back to flat-ish. And what was the other one? Microsoft, Google, Apple's today. Regardless, that's what's going on. Don't really have much other things to say. Pop back on over to SanDisk. And so, like I said, closing this before the bell, most likely. Again, unless I want to, for whatever reason, feel a little frisky at the bell, but I don't think so. And just close this for whatever profit it's at. Let the reaction to the earnings report happen. If it's not the direction we expect, probably just look for something else altogether. Like I said, I don't have a super high conviction on the price appreciation to the sentiment pairing back from that range from like 500 to 700 was a lot more like, hey, what's going on? And now there's a kind of a clear, there's still a clear picture, but the news cycle to me is more steadfast. I could be exactly and precisely wrong, but if it, for whatever reason, this stock depreciates after the earnings report, immediately after the bell, probably won't play it at all. We'll still watch it, talk about it. But overall, I'm pretty open to looking for some sort of conviction outside of the memory trade. But then again, I just have no prospectus on anything. When I don't have prospectus on anything, I don't sit here, and then you don't develop trade theses or prospectus or ideas. And so just commenting, again, it's trade log if you're watching this. I don't know. So that is what I have today, finishing up right here at 3:49 p.m., and we will check in later.